Well, next in the long line of Mercedes vehicles is the new GLA. It's not the 45. We've recommended the prior gen 45 kind of endlessly.
We have a lot.
It's the gentleman's hot hatch.
Yes, that's key. In fact, we've talked about the GLA AMG 45 prior gen because the thing we said about it from the first moment we drove it is, this is just a hatchback. It's being sold as an SUV. It's just a hatchback.
You're watching Everyday Driver. We make a TV show, podcast,
and YouTube channels dedicated to great cars, driving adventures, and helping you find a car you'll love.
Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a thing.
With this generation, they have specifically changed it. It is taller, wider, has more space throughout, happens to be a tiny bit shorter, but has a longer wheelbase, and everybody's seating position is much more upright. They are specifically trying to make it more like an SUV and less like a hatchback in this gen.
The wheelbase is over an inch longer, which gives it that little bit better ride, that nicer highway, freeway kind of ride. And I keep having to remind myself that this is not the one to go find the sporty driving.
No, of course not.
Mercedes makes the GLA 45. They make the GLA 35. They make this in all-wheel drive flavor, but this is the base model front-wheel drive, 2-liter engine, 221 horsepower, and 258 pound-feet of torque. The same engine in the GLB. It's that same 2-liter they used everywhere.
And they have it in the CLA as well. It's
I remember when 16-valve used to be like the thing.
Yeah.
And now people are like, 16 what?
Yeah, but now it's lots of torque from a tiny little four-cylinder that hammers along with this 8-speed transmission and goes pretty quick.
Yes, it does. Have you ever been in a home improvement store and you've overheard this conversation? I hope you do someday. Two people standing there lifting new faucets for their sink. And they've got one in one hand and one in the other, and they're going, yeah, well, this one feels heavier. That means it's the better, more robustly built, more expensive unit. Whereas this one over here just feels light and cheap. Let's get the heavier, more expensive one.
Okay, all right.
Whether it's more expensive or not, let's get that heavier one. It feels like more quality. Because at this point, at this level, I think people are starting to judge quality and a little bit less on price. I mean, price is still very important.
Yeah.
But now you want something for your money and you think, all right, I'm spending $42,000 on this thing. It better feel heavy and solid and feel expensive. Because in this category, of all of its competitors, including a Toyota RAV4 Prime loaded out at $44,000.
Agreed, that's a lot of car for that money.
A lot more for your money, not to mention a Kia Telluride and the always mentioned Mazda CX-5 Grand Touring fully loaded for under $40.
Yep.
This doesn't seem like a bargain.
No.
But it feels solid. It feels expensive.
It does.
It's that same kind of feeling. You close the door, I'm the door snob, you're the vent snob.
You're right, yep.
You close the door and you think, wow, well, this feels solid and heavy and robust and well built and luxurious and expensive. And suddenly that price is justified in your mind. Doesn't matter the stats, doesn't matter how it drives, but it feels like a Mercedes.
Yes, I see your point.
I'm just saying this is as an example.
Yes.
Many people might think this way, but then when you start to apply the critical thinking and what we do, that kind of falls down. The light faucet could be carbon fiber and titanium.
Yes. No, I don't have an issue with the analogy. My concern here is this feels to me like a luxury brand trying to build affordable, which is exactly what they are, versus a brand like a Kia or a Mazda that's trying to be an affordable brand, trying to make you something that feels luxurious.
Yes.
And I am aware of the difference there.
Yeah,
because
it's the two different approaches.
This at $42,000, many things about it feel like, oh, you got the cheap one.
Of all the expensive ones you could have gotten.
And for all the competitors, if you're spending roughly $40,000, you spend a lot of time in the competition sitting there going, this is a lot of car for the money.
Yeah.
This feels really great. This feels like you got the cheap one. And I like Mercedes right now. And we drove the GLB not that long ago.
Yeah, we did.
Which I did not like.
You liked.
I did
not
kind of
liked it.
I actually think the GLA is better than the GLB. 3,500 pounds, the smaller size of it. I actually think the dynamics here are really good, very well dialed in.
Yeah.
But the fixtures, for lack of a better way to put it, I'm going to go with your faucet thing. The fixtures in here, they feel a little cheap.
Do they?
Yes.
You think they feel cheap?
The biggest fail is the window switches. Those
Okay.
window switches could be in a $20,000 car.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's not good when you spend 42, and because it's not like you're not going to touch the window switch.
Right. You're
You're going to interact with that.
Right.
I mean, now this has the MBUX system. We actually really like
It's spectacular.
Mercedes' current interface
Yes.
right now. We think it is one of the best, and this is the cheapest way to get the MBUX system.
It is.
And it is
Yeah.
awesome. But a lot of the materials around that feel like somebody was sitting with a clipboard going, no, can't do that high end. We got to go down, which you know is exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can feel that.
Well, this starts at 36. The reason it's 42, well, almost 43, is because the multimedia package and the premium package.
Yeah.
And that gives you the screen that you want and the folding mirrors and a lot of little nice things that
Yeah.
you're going to want. If you were to leave those things off, yeah, you could get this down in price, but then it really starts
Then
to feel
it
cheap.
really feels cheap. Then you really feel like I just got the bargain basement Mercedes, but I got
Yeah.
the badge, which is
But you got
it's
the
not
badge.
good. Yeah.
I've also noticed that all these car companies are starting to put the dual clutch transmissions in the SUVs. Like BMW is putting automatics in the cars.
BMW has left it for all of their sports cars.
Hyundai, Kia Seltos.
Uh-huh.
It's a $21,000 SUV. Has a 7-speed DCT.
What on
This
earth
has
is
an
going
8-speed
on?
DCT.
Yes, it does. What on earth is going on?
It's a little strange.
Yeah.
I think manufacturers want their SUVs to feel a little bit more jumpy, sporty, kind of on edge.
interesting point, yeah.
So when you do put it in sport mode, it has that feeling. I think it's engineered specifically for that, whereas automatics in cars can now be very well tuned
Yeah.
to be sportier, to do better.
But then feel really smooth otherwise because of that. That's an interesting perspective. I see that.
Let's walk around the exterior. This is a very cleaned up shape from the prior GLA.
Yes.
I love what Mercedes design language is right now. I love it through their entire vehicle lineup. They're looking at surface and highlights. Rather than doing too many lines, rather than putting too many lines around the car, they're just using surface and form. Just define the shape. The signature things about a car, the headlights, the grille, the taillights, those are the things that stand out for the GLA.
Yeah.
The proportions are less ungainly than the prior GLA because same length and they extended that wheelbase. So it looks a little bit more balanced, which I like. But I think there are a few flavors that Mercedes could do here that nobody else could. And that justifies, in my mind, this GLA. Even though it's a solid contender, when you start to break it down, as we're talking about, from a price standpoint, you've really got to want this
Yeah, you do.
SUV.
You do.
And that is the very high end, the AMG GLA 45.
Yeah.
382 horsepower. Holy moly, yes. But then on the other end, I think they could do that off-road, all-road, safari-ish kind of thing.
Okay, you're talking
to
about
this.
the Crosstrek version of the GLA.
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Push
Yeah,
it
yeah.
up to 45, 46 for the amenities that you want and put some suspension on it, kind of bigger wheels and tires, big fender flares, the aftermarket roof rack.
Do the body cladding around the
Yeah.
fenders and just embrace that look.
That could be
I
kind of
see that.
interesting
Yeah.
on something this size. And suddenly it's a little bit of a entry-level, luxury but off-road exploring vehicle.
Yeah, okay, I see that. And every time you drove it to Starbucks, which is where you're mostly driving it, it would actually feel
Totally.
much, much better, but you got that the ruggedized version.
Totally. It's
Yeah,
mostly
okay.
for style. I think Mercedes is missing that for here, but that's just my own opinion. Otherwise, you sit in the back, look what that longer wheelbase has done for the backseat passengers.
Well, and also the very upright seating position that the last gen didn't have.
It's
Both of those things
great back
have given
there.
you quite a bit of space because let's be honest, the last one was a hatchback. And
It
so
was
it
a
had
hatch,
hatchback
yeah.
seating, it
This
had
no longer
hatchback
feels
setup.
that.
This feels like we had to go SUV, but I think the GLB is an ungainly design. I don't like it. This one, at
Fair
least,
enough.
I think, while it looks very different than the GLA and not as interesting hatchback, I think it starts to look like, all right, well, that works. I see what you did there. It's nice.
yeah. Well, we've got some highway driving. You got to drive this.
Yep, I'm ready.
What Mercedes has been doing for all of their interiors has translated very well for every single vehicle they make. Now, we've got the new S-Class that's just been introduced that's going to change things yet again, but I like the interaction here. I do like that it feels luxurious. It feels like that step up.
I don't know that I agree, but
You sit here, it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel Mazda. Mazda is not more luxurious than this.
okay, but
It is not.
But then there's various touch points that I interact with here, like the window switches, like some of the plastics and
Sure.
stuff that you touch, that I feel like if you spent this much elsewhere, it would feel nicer. I also really like what Mercedes is doing right now with most of their seats. In fact, some of their SUVs have had some of the best seats I've gotten in the last few years, period, across any cars at all.
Yeah.
I don't like these seats.
You don't
These
like
feel
them?
like stools with a back on them.
Really?
I don't feel like they're very supportive. These seats feel like base seats as well. The seats and the window switches, I know those are two random things to pick on, but both of those things I feel like pull me away from $42,000.
Okay, but consider it as a $36,000 vehicle with just
Yeah.
the electronics, the add-ons, and some lighting and power mirrors and ambient stuff.
Fine, but when I'm
Does
thinking...
that change your perspective?
Not really with what I'm getting from the Japanese competitors or even the Korean competitors for the similar price.
I feel like this is on par with the Mazda. That's where I feel like this interior is.
Okay.
But then this is more expensive, and you do get more for your money because you get more horsepower, you get a turbo in the Grand Touring version. So I feel like this is on par, but that means this is base. This is the starting level for Mercedes.
Yeah, and that's I think the struggle is you're talking about upper level Mazda versus bottom level Mercedes, and
Right.
and as a result, the Mazda comparison, it feels like you got a luxury item. This
Sure.
feels like you got the
By
the
virtue.
discounted version.
Sure.
You got that off the Mercedes discount rack. It's still Mercedes. It's
It
still
doesn't
very
feel
good
cheap by any means.
No, but
It
it's
doesn't
just
feel
like
that
it's
way.
the discounted market part
Sure,
of this,
I
and that's
understand.
where I struggle. I do think that the dynamics here are a thing that's worth considering, because I
agree.
think when you get this into corners, I happen to be on the freeway, but you get this into corners, you take it on anything that feels like a back road where you want something to handle all of a sudden, and this really steps up.
Yeah.
And I think it
Yeah.
steps up in a level that is beyond most 5-seat SUVs we've driven. That's a place where I think this shines. The flip side is, I am in sport mode, I admit, but the flip side is, I think the ride's a little busy. And so if I go into comfort here, it gets better, but it never gets a ride that I feel like is plush.
You're
And
still
so-
feeling a short wheelbase, even though it's longer than the last one.
Yes.
It can't become an E-Class. all of a
Exactly.
sudden. I think people are going to discover this, and it's going to be a solid contender. But only you at that point are going to have to say, all right, can you justify 42? Because it has the two
Yeah.
packages you really want. If you start applying numbers and applying actual dollars to, all right, what are we getting for our money? That's where it starts to
It's a
fall
struggle.
down.
And I do think you want the packages that are on this. You want
You
the full
have to
inbox
have
system.
that.
You want that kind of
Have
thing,
to,
because that's the
yeah.
thing that makes you feel like I really did get a Mercedes, and that's the stuff that you really are going to enjoy. So I don't think that the actual base level of this is something that you're going to feel satisfied by, but then when you get the packages you want, we've broken 40 grand.
Yeah,
That's
fair
tough. That's very tough, but you did get a cool Mercedes product with the cool tech. Where are you on that?
I
it's
suppose.
a tough debate.
See, I like the ride quality, but I think the suspension is still very soft in corners, even dynamic mode, because this is not adaptive suspension here. So I feel like it's still a little too soft, and you want to buy this for long distance cruising. You're not buying this as a carver. So therefore, if it has a little bit of a jumpier ride on the freeway, you're going to have to decide what you like. Do you want this more compact thing? And it's a good ride.
Yeah.
But it's not the Carver. I think it's still too soft for that. But
Well,
it doesn't
I agree.
need to be more than that.
It doesn't need to be. It doesn't
at
need to
this
be a
level.
Canyon Carver. I just think compared to the string, the litany of 5-seat SUVs we've
Very.
driven, this is a good car dynamically. It actually handles well among that group.
Right. There's
But
no
it-
feel to the steering.
No,
but
of course
it
not.
handles
Of course not.
decently, yeah.
Because you're not going to cross-shop this with a sports car. But
No,
in among that world, to have this have some decent dynamics in the corners is exciting, actually. But you don't end up with, I bought a Mercedes. Oh, the ride's amazing. No, you bought a small SUV.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
Exactly.
they've done what they can. And the surprise for me is twofold. It's that I think it's interesting how much the dynamics are actually a standout in this class, but yet you don't get that Mercedes ride, which is understandable in both
Sure,
both
because you're at
degrees.
entry level.
Absolutely, and you're also small.
But it doesn't feel like an entry level price.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't feel that way.
That's my struggle. Is this is a lot of money, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of competition here, and so it does feel to me like if you are a Mercedes buyer, or if you're interested in maybe being a Mercedes buyer, but I really want an SUV, I think you'd be very happy here. But if you're just shopping, I need a good 5-seat SUV. I think this is struggles a bit to be on the major consideration list because of the price.
The doors are so satisfying to open and close, though. They're just so satisfying.
What nice doors. Hey, it has nice vents.
See? And you like the vents.
I like vents.
So,
it has good
2
vents.
out of 2 on the list.
The things that we care most about,
yes.
Doors and vents, apparently
it's really
the Mercedes
good.
GLA did really, really well.
Have you noticed the load floor in the back? It's pretty low.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to get stuff in.
For sure.
I really like that.
Yeah. Easy in and out, easy loading.
Yeah,
I don't have to climb down into anything. They walked completely away from the hatchback of the last version, but okay, all right.
I'm telling you, a Safariized version of this.
I see it.
People would buy it on looks alone, and image alone, and image sells.
Yeah, it does.
It does. So if they had this as a luxury off-roader, a little bit of a kind of fire road-ish,
The
that's
GLA
the most
Safari
extreme,
trim. It's the Safari trim.
That's something nobody else could do. You're not seeing a Seltos like that. You're not seeing a CX-5 like
The
that.
Dakar Seltos. No, it doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. The Dakar GLA, that kind of works. All right, I see it. I do
works.
see it, yeah.